Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Back of House. We help you do your business better. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by one of my colleagues and one of the best in the business when it comes to managing the financial health of your organization. Today, I'm joined with Sean Meade. He is the president and founder of Dining Assist. Hi, Sean. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you. So let me give you a little bit of the stats on Sean. So he's the founder of Dining Assist. He's had 19 years of experience in the restaurant industry. He's worked in every capacity from cook to bartender to general manager, even as a financial director for multiple restaurant brands. Currently, he's also serving as program officer here at ibra.org. He has owned 2 restaurants, and he also moonlights as a part-time bartender and spirits educator. Did I forget anything, Sean?
No, you sure did not.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us. So it's the top of the year, and it's this time where people are doing their taxes, they're getting their financial health in order as it relates to their business. And businesses of color particularly have been hit hard from the COVID pandemic, along with other racial issues that pose disparities for us within the industry. So I thought at the beginning of this year, it was really important for us to discuss getting your financial house in order, things to look at to help you do business more successfully. Could you share with us why it is so important to really focus at the beginning of each year on taking an assessment of where you are financially and where in areas in which you can improve?
Sure. I mean, what you want to do is basically take what you did last year. If you did good, let's see how you can improve a little bit. If you did bad, let's see how you can make the bad or not so good better. It's a way to just kind of wash away the last year and make sure that you set the year on the right foot. It's very important to do that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that, as you make goals for yourself, personally, whether it's to lose weight or to sleep more or to develop better relationships, finances has to be the key thing. But it doesn't have to be scary. There should be some areas that you know and you understand really well. And you gave me this great list for us to be able to work off of. And one of the first things you said that people need to be able to track are their total sales. Can you explain more about that?
Sure. So your total sales are what money comes into the restaurant through people buying your products and services. Sales in a restaurant are food, beverage, and to go as well. So you got to track your sales, see what you did last year and compare it to what you're doing now this year. If sales are higher, you got to figure out what made them higher from last year to this year. If they're lower, you got to figure out what made them lower. Obviously, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so sales aren't going to be as high as they were in the beginning of this year as they were last year. That's fact of the matter. Now, how can you bridge that gap? How can you increase sales during this time and make that stick for the next year going forward?
Those are some good keys right there. And you also said a couple of other numbers to look at is your total expenses. Tell me about that. What's looking at your total expenses and why is that important?
Well, expenses or cost of goods sold are basically the food you buy costs money. The people that you hire and employ cost money, and the beverages that you buy cost money, and the rent costs money. Keeping track of your expenses, making sure they don't get out of whack. That's a very valid thing and very important thing to look at because your expenses flow back to your sales. Because if you have expenses and sales that are equal, you're not going to make any money. So you have to figure out what is the balance between some of the expenses you have to pay and what is some of the expenses you need to pay. That's a very hard balance to manage. And that trickles down to your cash flow, trickles down to your income and expenses sheets, trickles down to everywhere.
So I know a lot of people confuse their sales and their profit. And so a lot of people think that when they have sales coming in, that they're actually being profitable. Really explain to people the difference between total sales and profit.
Well, it's interesting because you put that sheet back up, and if you do, you're going to see sales, expenses, and profit, right? And it happens in that order. You have sales. That's what comes into the restaurant all day, not taking into account anything that you spent to get those sales. Your expenses, that tracks what you spend to get the sales. And your profit is your sales minus your expenses. That is your profit. Period. Point blank. Sales is pretty much your gross revenue. Profit is your net revenue after you take out all the expenses that you spent to get the food on the plate.
Well, people tend to think, average sale by product would only relate to a certain business category. Sometimes they'll say, oh, well, only the restaurant industry has to deal with that, or only the retail industry has to deal with that. But actually, everybody should know what their average sale by product is, correct?
That is definitely correct. In any industry, any product or service you sell, that's your average is what you pretty much sell the product for. If your average goes down, your sales are going to go down. Your expenses might go up in that instance. They might go down, but you have to manage what your average sale by product is, because otherwise you're not going to know where to adjust, where you need to move to or shift to, or if that product is even viable in this day and age for a restaurant. To be honest, if you have a pork loin and you need to switch to different pork shoulder, which is cheaper, you might switch a dish from being a pork loin to a pork shoulder, because it's cheaper to get a pork shoulder, because it's too expensive, and it's too expensive to get a pork loin and keep a pork loin, and you're not selling as much. So your average sale by product is very important in a restaurant, and even selling shoes.
This, to me, is the most important, because I think a lot of businesses, particularly minority businesses, really miss this step. They're so consumed with trying to get the business started, get it off the ground, make sure that it looks attractive with its branding and marketing, making sure that the product is good, focusing on customer service, making sure that they're handling operations and management. They totally forget owner's pay. That should almost, to me, be like number one on the list. But tell us a little bit more about the value of knowing owner's pay.
I mean, look, you have to pay yourself first. You got to work that out. You got to put that in the budget to pay yourself, even though it might not be as much as you're worth. You got to make sure you have that line item in your income and expense, in your payroll. Because if you don't, you're going to be steadily spending your wheels and moving money around, and then you wake up one morning and be like, wait a minute, I don't have money in my bank account. Oh, I could just take money from business. Like, no, you have to set that up. You have to do it correctly. You have to put yourself on a payroll, whether it's a payroll every week or a payroll every quarter. However you want to do it, you have to pay yourself. I've been in instances where a person did not take a salary, and she was like, well, I got to start taking a salary. But once you start taking a salary, that's going to hurt your profit, because you're taking money out of your business, because she wasn't making that much money. And you got to really sit down and explain that to owners sometimes. If they've taken a long time to get themselves paid, it takes a long time to get on a system of paying yourself, and not just what you're worth, but what you can afford.
Right, definitely. I think that one of the first things that people have to do is they have to lay it out. There's this quote that says, write the vision and make it plain that you may run with it. I think the word budget can sometimes be spooky, professionally and personally. But I believe that if you have that budget, then you're able to do just like what you said, be able to see what's going where, to whom, and how much, and then you'll be able to make better plans to be able to pay yourself first, or pay yourself in the grand scheme of things. Can you share more about the benefits of using a pre-made template versus trying to do it on your own? Is it something that's popular in the marketplace right now? Do people, really use budget templates, or are they easy to find online?
They're very easy to find online. They're very easy to do by yourself. Budget templates help you manage your money, and they help you track your money as well, because you can put a budget together, simple food, beverage, payroll budget. Say, this is how much I'm going to spend on this. This is how much I'm going to spend on this. Each category has a number. So you can then track that, because you can look at each month and categorize it by month and say, okay, this month I spent this much. This month I spent that much. Now I'm under this month, but I'm over that month, whether it be for food, beverage, or labor. Labor is pretty much going to be something that's going to fluctuate very often because your labor force, sometimes they'll work overtime, sometimes they won't. Now, if they know they work overtime, you have to figure out a way to stop them from working overtime. Whether you bring in another person, you do it yourself. Once you track these numbers in a budget and look at the actual numbers and compare them, you can either adjust your budget or adjust what you do in terms of bringing somebody else on or making sure that either a person doesn't get overtime or a person doesn't get too less hours. Or with food, you might be buying too much of one certain product. Then you can lessen that product. If that product doesn't sell, you can take it off. That in turn lowers your budget.
So I think what a lot of people need to realize in just swiftly moving through this is that there are some habits, there are some behaviors that if you don't have them, you definitely need to adopt in this new year and really in this new frontier. The way that we were getting by doing business before in the hospitality industry is just not going to work in this new normal that we find ourselves in. We've quickly shifted the industry forward, probably by a good 5 to 10 years in almost a month. You agree?
So I do agree. Yeah.
I think that it's important that we really look at rapid catch up, and bookkeeping is just one of those things that we can do, and get a budget template and start to pay ourselves and know our expenses and our sales and our profits. Those are just the basics and the fundamentals that we're going to have to know and have a great grasp on to be able to understand in this new reality. But you also presented some other things that people need to have as business owners, making sure that they have good habits. And we're going to rapid fire through these here. First, you said people need to get serious and just start. I think I'm one of those people. Like, I organize and I lay out and really nothing gets done, sometimes at the end of the day when it comes to the numbers. But how is it important to just move past trying to do it perfectly and just do it?
Realize you can't do it perfect and then just get after it. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be a straight shot. There's always going to be twists, turns into getting it done. And plus you have to build a system and build consistency. So once you just start, you have to be consistent at doing the one thing you need to do, whether it's putting a budget together and tracking your sales or tracking your costs or building to track sales, whatever. Just do it. Because once you do it, you'll feel better about it and then make that become consistent.
Now, you also said choosing the right record keeping tool. And I know that this is something that I've heard people complain about, and I've even sometimes got a little frustrated. Do I use QuickBooks? Do I use another software? Do I use one specific to my industry? What is the importance around picking the right record keeping tool? And is there some type of formula or something that you should look for when you're trying to select the right product?
If you understand it, use it. It's as simple as that. If you don't understand it, don't use it. Don't get more applications or software than you actually need. Because a lot of times, some of the software you already have can do some of the things you want it to do. Really, it could be as simple as that. Or just scanning things into the cloud, or scanning things into Dropbox. That's a very easy and possible thing for anybody to do because Dropbox is almost free. Unless you want to pay for it, and then you get extra storage space. But Dropbox as an application is perfect for that.
Okay, and then you said know which records to keep and for how long. Now, when I was growing up, my dad was like, you keep this in a box for 7 years. You throw this out after 11 years. Oh, that's only something that's for 5 years. And it was kind of overwhelming where I just got to the point where I schlucked everything over to a shoebox. And then I spent all my years trying to figure out what goes where, for whom, and for what for. So what records should every business in the hospitality industry keep? Like, these are just no-goes. And what are some that might be a good idea for people to keep?
Well, the three things that I always know to keep are employee documents, taxes, and receipts. Those three things you gotta keep. Because if you don't, and the labor department comes in, asks you for employee documents, you don't have them, not a good situation. If a tax person comes in, you're gonna get an audit from the state, and your tax stuff isn't in order, not a good thing. You should keep your tax documents for at least 7 years. You keep employees for at least 3 years after they were employed by you. And you should definitely keep your receipts at least a year, because there are plenty of people that will run out with both receipts and then come back and tell you, hey, oh, I was never there. And then you can say, no, you were here because I have a signed copy or I have something saying you were here. That's been, and people claim fraud for that. And that's something that's really big in the industry today.
Set boundaries. So you've been working 16 hours. You've been manning the shop by yourself because of COVID and short staff and not as much traffic. And now you have to deal with your finances at the top of the year. PPP, what's the requirements for that? EIDL loans, what's the requirements for that? What are your state grant programs requiring of you as far as reporting? What are the local loan programs requiring of you? How are you going to deal with the payroll issues and employee issues? So much of that stuff is just consuming people right now. What's the benefits of establishing boundaries, as well as do you propose people taking one time a week to deal with this, or a little bit each day, or something quarterly? What would be the strategy to help people establish healthy boundaries, but yet still dedicate the right amount of time to keeping their finances in order?
I mean, I would usually dedicate Monday and Tuesday to finance work. It really just depends on what you're comfortable with. I would generally do it Monday and Tuesday because I know Monday and Tuesday are somewhat my lighter days. I'm not going to get as many people in on Monday. Tuesday is going to start to ramp up a little bit, but I still would have enough time, an hour or 2 hours a day, to deal with the finances, deal with records, deal with anything that might have come up and over the weekend, deal with those issues. So by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I can just kind of focus on the operation of the business.
And then I think this one was similar to the one before as far as choosing the right record keeping tool. But I think people really underestimate the benefit of technology. There's so much software out there that helps you clock in, help you clock out, manages your online orders. You have QuickBooks that help you. You have things built into your POS. A lot of people are sometimes old school. I have a couple of members here within the association who still don't believe in cash registers. They like to do things manually and by hand. But don't you think it's important for people to begin to use the technology that's out there and offered in the marketplace today?
It's very important. Very important. It's funny because a cell phone like this, that's, just a piece of technology that can house so many different things for your restaurant. That can house your cameras. That can house your POS system. You can look at it on your phone. That can house your financial stat. That can house your delivery stat. If you want to look at that on your phone can literally have everything you have at your restaurant on your phone. So you can see everything that goes on. That's as simple as it can be. Technology, you have to adapt. Period. You got to adapt. Even if it's like a slow go and a slow draw, something has to be done, because using the cash register and not using the credit card machine, people aren't going to come to your restaurant after a certain point because they don't want to use cash. Now they want to use credit. So you have to adapt if you want to stay alive.
And this last one, knowing when to outsource. Now, I can definitely speak for the both of us when I say that a lot of times when they come to us, they're most likely at the very end of their rope. And this is when they messed up. They've exhausted every single effort, to do it in their own way and how they like it. But, you know, a lot of times I tell people, if you just would have came even a week sooner, you know, before the paperwork came or before the letter was serviced to you, like, you know, it's just better to fight this fight with help. So share with us the importance of knowing when to outsource and typically what would be something that you would outsource.
Well, I mean, I think the key thing when to outsource is the hardest thing to figure out for any business owner, because they think they can do everything. They're Superman, and you know they can fix any problem. But you can't fix not knowing how to do taxes and your books. If you don't know it, you don't know it. You have to find somebody to do it. You can't be a lawyer, so you have to have a lawyer, or at least a lawyer that you know, or somebody that can give you guidance in certain situations that you're not aware of. So just outsourcing those two things can free you up to do some of the things that you're better at, or not even prominent, but better at. That it helps tremendously take a lot of weight off of you as an individual, because if you're running a business and owning a business, that's a full-time job. Sometimes it's two full-time jobs all within the business itself, because you might have a lot of different hats, which most owners do. So outsourcing when appropriate is the best way to keep your sanity and the best way to get things done without you being and having to micromanage everybody in the process.
So I also know that one of the big hurdles in people getting their financial house in order is they really look at the cost. Not only just the time, but the cost. People think that it's really expensive to be able to get your financial house in order. And I try to tell people, especially when I'm outsourcing to Dining Assist and, you know, bringing you in to consult on particular projects for our nonprofit organization, you know, I really tell them you can't afford to not take care of your finances. You cannot afford to not get the right technology or upgrade to outsourcing to someone else versus you doing it or someone in your family helping you. But I think people need to more or less understand there are some things that they can do to streamline where they are in their finances and really take control of things or continue to move the ball forward. And one of the things you said is that people need to do a SWOT analysis on their accounting. So that's looking at the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. What does that mean? How does that help?
I mean, it helps knowing what you're good at, what you're bad at, where the opportunity lies to be better. And where the opportunity lies where something could actually pull you out, pull some things out that you didn't want to be pulled out, basically, and then not in a bad way. You know, and accounting is a very specific function. You know, if you don't have the accounting right, things can go haywire. Taxes could not be paid. Sales tax, payroll tax, whatever. Insurances could not be paid. Insurance could lapse because you weren't paying attention to it. That's a threat. That's a weakness. You know, and you don't want that to happen, because if something happens where a person slips and falls on a wet floor and you're not covered, that's more money out of pocket. That could ruin your restaurant just from that one thing alone. So you have to take a look at your accounting and make sure your accounting is A, up to date, B, you have the right person doing it, and can give you the analysis of what your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are in a very concise manner.
You also said leveraging the use of technology, and this may be a little bit redundant, but I think that what you're trying to say mostly here is that know when you can save on costs or save on time by using a software versus you doing it yourself, correct?
That's very correct. And I think the time aspect of it is more important, because for you to get your time back with leveraging technology is invaluable, because then it frees you up to do other things. You don't have to, as I said, micromanage people or micromanage a machine. You don't have to look at it. You just use your phone, click and go.
Now, I'm going to say this because, of course, IBRA, we are a destination marketing organization, and we serve as a nonprofit to help Black business owners market and brand their businesses to people all across the world. And I say that as a lead-in for the fact that people spend so much money on marketing, but they could streamline a lot of their financial costs by just taking advantage of tools that are free, or by combining their resources like how we've combined with Dining Assist to be able to provide these education and master classes. What would you tell people who feel like, they have to spend their money on the most extravagant things versus being able to just simply have a consistent social media campaign?
Keep it simple, stupid. It's as simple as that. Because I'm not a marketing person. I don't market at all. But I have a friend that's a marketing person and in social media. And we just talked earlier today about, he's like, hey, let's do this with your LinkedIn. I'm like, okay, I can do that. Because I look at articles all the time. We can post. He's like, yeah, just give me like 2 weeks worth of articles and we can post them. And I was like, oh, cool. That doesn't cost me anything to do. I look at articles all the time on restaurants, on the restaurant industry in New York, in California, in Chicago, looking at what people are doing. So I get articles. I write articles. So all I'm going to do is get a big bunch of articles and start posting them once or twice a week. And I have at least 10 weeks worth of stuff. So it's that simple. And it doesn't cost me a dime.
Now, this is something that I think people stumble over. And again, we talked about earlier in the conversation that they don't understand that their time is also money. And as business owners, we always can audit other people's time. We look at what it takes for a vendor to get something to us, how an employee operates, what the customer, how much time it takes to engage with them. But we really don't analyze our time really well. And sometimes spending intense hours in an area that we're not strong, like finance and accounting, is actually costing us money, correct?
Very true. Very true. Because if you don't understand it, why are you going to rack your brain trying to figure it out? If you don't know what you're looking for, trying to find a needle in a haystack, you're not going to find that needle in a haystack. And you're not going to figure what to do with your finances by just staring at some financial numbers like a balance sheet or an income statement, because you don't know what you're looking for. So you need somebody to help you augment your lack of knowledge with somebody that has knowledge that can do it and tell you this is where you're making a mistake and point to the number and say, this is where you need to curb your expenses a little bit. This is where you need to expand a little bit. You have the opportunity to do these things. You need to figure out, somebody can tell you what to do as opposed to you trying to tell everybody else what to do. And owners get mixed up on that. They always want to be the person with the right answer. And sometimes they're just not.
So auditing your supply chain and your diversity. And a lot of times people, go with, well, this person orders from that person. And when I first started, this was the rep that came out to see me. And so I've stayed in a relationship with them. And I tell them, some relationships are just for too long. And you have to know when to hold them and you have to know when to fold them. So when is it appropriate to audit your supply chain? And when is it appropriate to diversify? Especially right now, in the market with everyone being hit with COVID, there's a lot of independent suppliers that are taking losses, that are looking for new relationships. Even the big companies are trying to push their way through. But what's some important things to look at in this area?
Price. I mean, if you're looking at beverage costs or food costs, price. Because if you can get a cheaper price and the same quality, I'm going to go with the cheaper price and the same quality. That's pretty much how it is, at least in the food and in the restaurant industry. You have to be cognizant of what you're paying in the marketplace and who else is offering the same thing at a cheaper price, maybe larger quantity, and can get it to you maybe faster. And diversity, you just got to figure out, and even diversity in your menu options, but also diversity in who you get your supplies from. It could be you get certain things from a farm that is organic, and you can put that on your menu. That creates a partnership. That creates another long-lasting relationship that can go on for the life of your business and be very fruitful for both parties.
And I will throw in and add in there, this relates to every type of business, you know, whether you're operating a movie theater, a roller skating ring, a cigar lounge, a retail store, a restaurant, or a hotel, anything within the hospitality industry. If you have the right relationships that can help you maximize your presence in the marketplace, as well as continue to save on costs, I would say totally go and do it. A lot of times I see people who they want to stick with the brand name so that they can be in a good old boys club or something of the sort, but there may be a smaller line company or someone who's more innovative in the marketplace coming out with new things, and they just have a tendency to be able to say, look, if you come over here to me, I can give you this plus more for you to take your business to the next level. So I just say, you know, don't really shy away from it. You always make it your mission to be looking to see what's out there, right?
Definitely. Always be canvassing what's out there, what new people, what some of your colleagues, coworkers are doing, colleagues are doing, what your other business owners are doing. Because even if it's in another industry, it still could fit what you want to do in your industry and in your business.
And that's the perfect lead into the next one, developing strategic partners. Like you already started talking about it. Like there may be crossovers into other industries, or it may overlap in that. Long as you have the ability to be able to connect with people, and as long as you have the ability to be able to, you know, take your product to the next level, you can be really successful with strategic partnerships, correct?
No, correct. All that. I mean, strategic partnerships, you know, help boost businesses from $1 billion businesses to $5 million businesses. They can help a $100,000 business go to a $500,000 business because you create a symbiotic relationship. You create a relationship that can last and a relationship that's beneficial to both parties. And I mean, it's as simple, it's simple but hard to do because you have to trust that the other person has your best interests at hand as well as his own best interests at hand. And they wash each other, you know, backs. They make sure that each person is taken care of. It's a very important relationship to have.
And last but not least, stay innovative. I can't tell people enough. There's new phones coming out, new software coming out, new pieces of technology. They're developing the POS systems across the board, literally annually. How important is it for people to be able to stay innovative?
It's extremely important, especially in the restaurant industry, especially in hospitality in general, because it's been such an upheaval in terms of what we've been doing for so long till now where we are, where we have to figure it out on a daily, weekly basis, what new things we're going to do, what new things are coming down the pipeline that we have to be cognizant of and watch out for and make sure that we can shift, not pivot, but shift to where the people are going. People are not going to automatically come back to indoor dining. They're just not going to do it. You know, they're scared. So until the vaccine gets rolled out a little bit further, people are going to do online, to go, maybe some outdoor dining, but you have to figure out where that other revenue stream is. And that's how being innovative and thinking outside the box. Simple.
And that's what we're doing here at IBRA. We're really thinking outside the box. We're having meetings, we're offering master classes, trainings, consulting, even helping you get new certifications to make sure that you can take your business to the next level. Sean Meade, he's the founder of Dining Assist. This is a consulting service for those who are in the restaurant industry looking to take their businesses to the next level. Sean, how can they find you?
They can find me on the web, diningassist.com. They can also find me on Instagram, Dining Assist, at Dining Assist.
Awesome. You can also find him on LinkedIn as well. And of course,
you're right.
And of course, you can find him through IBRA, IBRHA.org. And if you are not a member of IBRA, we would love for you to connect and join with us. We are definitely looking to advance the position of Black-owned businesses and celebrate the culture globally when it comes to the hospitality industry. You have joined us for another episode of Back of House, a Better Business webinar series. You will see more of Sean. You will see more of me, A Couture, and we look forward to you joining us for the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.